benefit whether or not MPs of other nations should be allowed to vote. Now, let me give a simple example. Thanks to, for example, if Mr. Of course not.
Let's concede then that the Secretary of State shouldn't decide these things, but the Speaker should. So presumably the honourable gentleman would accept then that the Speaker should make that determination, would he?
I think if we are to have the system, and I think there's been some talk about the SO97, that is indeed actually what happens. It's the point the honourable gentleman for Bedfordshire and I work Hertfordshire, sorry. Well, again, Mr. Speaker, it just goes to show the benefits of the United Kingdom, because I would not be learning about this issue of geography. But the point is, it is the Speaker under that rule, because the Speaker, and you would, I suspect, Mr. Deputy Speaker, pull me up if I was to follow the example of my honourable friend, the member for Rhondda, and give a 7 centuries worth of history about the role of the Speaker and how it's changed, and also indeed the excellent role of the Chairman of Ways and Means and how that's changed over the last 700 years. But that is the role of the Speaker. It is to be the impartial judge of this. A Secretary of State, and let me give a simple example. Let us say, for the sake of this argument, that Mr. Murdo Fraser becomes leader of this new party, and I must counsel him that if his argument is that he wants a name for a party that supports the Conservatives at level, that backs Tory policies, but isn't actually officially Tories, then I think the title Liberal Democrats has already been taken, and he will have to think of another one that he'll have to use going forward. But if Mr. Fraser's new party was to win 27 out of the 51, 52 seats that will be created in Scotland in the next general election, but thanks to the work, obviously, of my right honourable friend, member for Doncaster, we were to sweep to power at the next general election, it might well be possible.
He wants to come back to the bill, and he wants to mention a little bit more about third reading. We are drifting all around the country from Doncaster and the history of the Chairman of Ways and Means, and I can assure him it's certainly not 700 years old. And we don't want to get into a debate like that, do we? We want to stick to third reading, and I know he's going to now. Thomas Docherty.
It's the sentence I was about to say, under the powers of the
order. Don't tempt me. And I don't need to wait for the last sentence. I've been listening to the 20 sentences prior, and that also led me to believe that you'd gone off the bill. Thomas Docherty.
Most grateful, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for your kind words as ever. But under the powers of the Territorial Extent Bill and the future debate, it is quite possible that one of my right honourable friends, the Secretary of State for Education, would seek to exclude the 26, 27 Scottish Progressives, whatever they're called, from legislation in order to get the majority. It's quite possible that the reverse is true, that there are bills or a segment of bills that apply to Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, where the current government, not under the leadership of the member for New Forest or his colleagues, under some other Secretaries of State, might seek to use this bill or to exclude members unfairly in order to get the legislation through. And that is why the idea that the Secretary of State should be the person under this bill who decides which pieces of legislation are English only or Welsh only or English and Welsh only is quite frankly both ludicrous and sets out with a loaded table. Also, it was disappointing that the bill doesn't seek to answer the question about how select committees will work, or indeed oral questions, Mr. Deputy Speaker, because it is perfectly reasonable for members of the parties opposite to take a big interest in Scottish questions. We're always touched at the number of Conservatives who table questions regarding Scotland. But this bill doesn't seek to deal with the issue that English MPs are scrutinising.
As the honourable members know, it's not about questions, it's about legislation. And I think we're going to stick about talking about legislation and third reading. Thomas Docherty.
Most grateful, Mr. Deputy Speaker.